This is Rashawn Slater, first round draft pick for the LA Chargers, and you're listening to the Charged Up Bolts podcast. Bolt up.
Good evening and welcome to episode 48 of the Charged Up Bolts podcast. I'm your host, John Was Jr., and with me on this special podcast, two of my co-hosts over in Los Angeles, we have Mr. John Ayres. How's it going, buddy?
I mean, it's a beautiful day outside. The thunderstorm is over because it did its job and took care of those disgusting Raider fans. Kicked them out of LA. We own this town, baby. We own this town.
Well, Bez, how's it going? Looks like the house is on rebuild mode.
Mate, there's nothing special going on. Why is everyone getting hyped? Oh, yes. We beat the Raiders, baby.
So, lightning struck twice last night. Once literally and twice in the stadium. Bit of a delayed game. Didn't seem to affect anyone apart from John Gruden. He was sort of pointing at the sky saying, why are we going back into the locker room when we're in a closed environment? That was a call that came from New York. Look, I think that got him rattled from the first minute, to be honest. But getting back to football, I mean, it was a great performance from the Chargers. For the fourth straight week, they've held a quarterback to their lowest totals. I got a bit of stick for this on Twitter the other day. The point I was making, it's a pass-first league. You know, the NFL is all about passing the football and not running it. And despite the fact that we've had Dallas, we had Chiefs for a point, 198 yards, and we had Washington running the football hard. You know, ultimately, we've inhibited the quarterback, and we did it again against Derek Carr. All we've heard up until this point is Derek Carr, MVP. Well, 4 sacks. What did we limit him to? 21, 34, 196 yards. Defense are doing their job. I mean, we could talk about this game in a number of ways. We'll get on to Justin Herbert shortly. Herbert is mustard, hashtag. We'll get on to that. But John, I want your takes. Where do you want to start? You're in the driving seat. How do you want to start on picking this victory?
I don't know. I'm just happy to be here, my friend. I'm just happy to be here. I mean, I guess we can start by looking maybe at the AFC and then the AFC West. So starting with the AFC, the Chargers trail nobody as to the number one team in the AFC. I think based off strength of schedule and some other factors, they might actually be the number one seed at the playoffs started today. I know we shouldn't be talking playoffs after just week 4, but that's a heck of a start from a team that I thought was maybe a fringe playoff team. They're also first place in the division thanks to tiebreakers. So, I mean, this is an exciting start, and I'm really excited for that. As far as last night's game goes, I mean, I never bought into the Derek Carr hype. I said it from the very beginning, right? I said, hey, Derek Carr has been good because why? They have allowed him to sit back in the pocket and be comfortable. And I said, if you can just get a little bit of a pass rush on him, you can make him uncomfortable, the real Derek Carr will show up. And that's exactly what happened last night. Joey Bosa said the same thing. Joey Bosa in his press conference said, hey, look, we just knew if you just added a little bit of pressure, Carr would freak out. And, and I was pointing this out to my wife live as we were watching the game. But it was really funny to see towards the end of the game when he had pressure coming up the middle. I mean, he was still at least another 1 to 2 seconds away from even getting touched by a defender, and he just turtled up with the ball, expecting to get taken down. That is the real Derek Carr. He is, yes, when he has time in the pocket and he's got a clean pocket and he can kind of make his first read or even a second read with time, he can be an MVP thrower. He's great when he does that. But once you start making things a little messy, once you start applying pressure, he reverts back into that same old humdrum Derek Carr, 200 yards passing. He had 2 touchdown passes, but he also had the interception. And ultimately, he did not look anywhere near an MVP caliber last night. And I credit the Chargers for getting that pressure on him. But basically, they just exposed the fraud that he was.
Yeah, I tweeted late LA time early this morning. The difference for me between Carr and Herbert off the field is humility. Carr didn't project himself very well in the press conference, straight after the game. Colin Hurd must have read my tweet because he said the same thing. I was watching the Herd show about an hour ago, but these are very, very two different quarterbacks, and I think the Raiders have been pinning their hopes on the fact that Derek has turned the corner and he can take them down the stretch. Now, there's nothing saying that Carr won't bounce back. You know, he's capable. I wouldn't say he's a tier 1 quarterback, but he's got the ability to lead a franchise and make plays and get wins. They've got 3 under their belt already. I mean, Bez, you are a man for predictions. Did you see 4 sacks coming?
Do you know what? I felt as if the defense found his identity against the Chiefs. I predicted Derwin James coming up big. What did he do? Game-winning interception. That, you know, I called it yet again. Bosa is a man again, a man against boys. Fantastic. And I think that identity that's been found in the divisional games showed through, and the Raiders couldn't handle it. So as the game went on, I sort of thought, you know what, exactly as John was saying, more and more pressure, more and more errant throws. They couldn't handle us whatsoever. And you started to see the secondary sniffing blood, knowing that the front end was giving Carr no time. And so Derwin James disrespected Carr completely by just sitting in front of the route and going, there's no way he's going to have the time to burn me over the top. I'll just sit here and wait for the ball. You know, you saw Nazir Adelaide, you saw Asante Samuel Jr. trailing the player, passing it off his own to Nazir, and Nazir just breaking on the ball at speed like he hasn't done in year 1 and 2 to break those passes up. So I just thought, you know, the identity of our defense is now solidified. Turnovers, play confidently, and trust in Bosa and the other guys to cause havoc. Absolutely loved it. And I think the big thing about Carr, just to finish with the Raiders, is that the guy isn't very good. He's played nobody. He's thrown it around because he had a bit of time. And the first real contender he's come up against, he's been trash. Don't even like considering him in the same breath as Justin Herbert because they are not comparable. And I feel as if one thing's been proven already in this season: the best quarterback in the AFC West is Justin Herbert.
Well, Bez, we were talking about this prior to coming in there, and I still feel like the sections of the media that are holding back from wanting to give Chargers a lot of credit. And I almost feel like because Mahomes has won the Super Bowl, he's been to a Super Bowl and he walked away as a loser, they're almost afraid or tentative to put Herbert and or mention Herbert and Mahomes in the same context. Is that fair to say? I mean, I'm not expecting people to come out and say Herbert's the best quarterback in the league, but there's a lot of comments last night. If you follow Twitter, hashtag Justin Herbert, hashtag Herbert is mustard, you know, there's a lot of people out there, top analysts and top writers, saying I got it wrong. You know, I'm not going to give anybody airtime on this channel, but there was a certain individual who's got a good friend who's a Dolphin. He said, I refuse to watch Herbert because we passed up on Herbert. And we weren't saying none of this. We weren't jumping on the bandwagon of Herbert. It's like, yeah, he's a good quarterback. He is what he is. And it's a lottery. Unfortunately for us, Herbert is the cream of the crop from 2020, and he's just getting better and better and better and better. I mean, those stats, 6 games with 3 touchdowns or more, no interceptions in 19 starts. Absolutely crazy. Youngest quarterback to reach 500 completions before his 20th start. I mean, John, we don't talk enough about him because as a team, as the Charged Up Bolts team, we appreciate Herbert, but I think we just need to start waxing lyrical about him on every podcast.
Yeah.
You're on mute there, buddy.
There it is. Sorry. He is definitely just one of the top tier quarterbacks in the league. I know we had questions coming into the season, like what can he do? Can he take a step forward? I mean, he had such a great season, and maybe statistically he's not on that same pace right now. He may not be on pace for a, for 350-yard average per game passing, and that's fine. You know, his touchdowns, I call them Herberts because basically if it's in the end zone, it's Herbert did that. But his touchdowns are obviously down because the first couple weeks had some problems scoring in the red zone. Again, I said not to worry about that in the beginning of the year because I think we diagnosed the fact that this had to do with some small execution problems and some, and some problems with apparently illegal shifts, which thank God we didn't have any illegal shifts this game. That was amazing. That was probably the biggest shining moment for me, is no illegal shifts. So I'm glad they figured out how to not move when they're not supposed to. But anyways, so I knew that wouldn't last. I think in the last 2 games, they're now 8 of their last 10 in the red zone. They had one red zone trip where they didn't get a touchdown last night, and that was when they kneeled it to end the clock. So I don't even think we should count that, but whatever. Technically, it's a stat. So, anyways, they're 80% in the last 2 games, and I think that is more. That number might be high because I think the Raiders and the Chiefs both are pretty dreadful in the red zone. So again, I think that 80% is probably too high. But I think somewhere around that 70 to 75% range is probably where they're going to settle in as far as red zone touchdown rate. And I think that's where we want to be. And I think that's going to be pushing this offense forward. Besides Herbert, though, the run game, it showed some signs of life.
Thank you, Eckler, for winning me my fantasy this week.
What did I say in the pre-game show? 100 net yards, 2 touchdowns. And he actually killed my fantasy. So I was winning fantasy. When I checked, it's like, oh yeah, there's Eckler, 34 fantasy points. I've lost my first game of the season. I can live with that all week. This was not a perfect game. We had a couple of situations where Herbert should have found Mike Dubb down the line. He didn't. And John, you made a good point this morning at 5 a.m. my time, whatever it was. Allen and Williams weren't even a factor in this game, but we can live with this because at times we play with 23 and 22 personnel packages. Stephen Anderson showed his face. Obviously, Jared Cook with a touchdown. He got the game ball. Absolutely fantastic. Parham Jr. played his part.
My boy.
And this is, yeah, exactly. And this is the
uncoverable
point.
In the red zone, baby. Uncoverable.
This is the point. You've shut down Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Okay. You're not going to shut everyone else. You can't shut everyone down. Our offense is too good. But we made the odd mistake. I thought our defense really got a car. I kind of hope that the Raiders bounce back because I want the AFC to remain open. Everyone's expecting the Chiefs to bounce back and win the division. But he's given up, or the Raiders have given up 12 sacks now, 3 sacks a game. That's not sustainable. And we capitalized on that. 4 different players with a sack, absolutely brilliant. Aggressive again on 4th downs. Kicking game was good inside the stadium, but there's a lot. There's things to clean up there. Still penalties. That's going to be difficult to iron out. But as it stands, we're 3-1, and we're seeing improvements. Have you guys seen Staley's victory speech at all yet?
Yeah.
Watch it again because everyone is basically tuned in. They're dialed in. Now, yep. I've been around sports a long time, and you get this feeling when a team has got that spirit. Bez and I support a really garbage soccer team called Sheffield Wednesday, probably made famous by Ted Lasso. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, we didn't have a great squad, but the togetherness was there. And if somebody went to the shop for soda, everybody went. If somebody went to the pub, everybody went. And you get that sense of togetherness in the Chargers locker room. And Brandon Staley's created that culture. I mean, John, you're a massive fan of Lynn, and so was I. But I think he's got 20 to 30% of our players just for the way he approaches the game and the way he leads everyone. Is that a fair assumption?
So, again, I never thought that Lynn ever had a problem with the locker room. I don't think he ever lost the locker room. And that was never a problem. I think his was more in-game management. And, obviously, what we saw last night going forward on 4th down again, multiple times, the fake field goal punt thing was awesome.
Oh, it was beautiful.
The fake punt that if, Hunter Renfrow doesn't turn into freaking Derwin James for a second there, that's he's right at the sticks. That's a first down. Hey, by the way, can we a touchdown? Little props to Ty Long. That was a heck of a throw because he got that out real quick, and it was nice. It was right on target. Like, I mean, if he had a little bit more mustard on it, But again, there's only one guy who's mustard around here. But if he had a little more mustard on it, as they say in the States, he probably would have had that reception. But yeah, I mean, I love the aggressiveness that we didn't get with Lynn. And I think the problem with Lynn is that Lynn had trouble getting wins and the production wasn't there. And I think you can be a great motivator of men and you can be a great leader, but if you don't produce results in the NFL, you will lose the guys in the locker room. And I think Staley is just as good, if not better, of a motivator of men and leader of men, but he's getting results and people are buying into the system. And all this means is that it's going to get better. The more they buy in and the less they make doubt things, the better that everything's going to go, the more cohesive it's going to go. Like I said, the defense for the Rams when he took over, a couple of games, they did not look good at the beginning of the season, and then they gelled into one of the elite squads in the NFL. Do I think the Chargers are going to be a top 2 or 3 defense in the league? Probably not. Is top 10 out of the question? I don't think so at all. No. I think the trajectory of this defense is getting better and better each week. I think that this defense is sky's the limit. Of course, the offense is amazing. So, I think that's the difference between Lynn. Yeah, Chris Harris needs to come back. I mean, do we need him? And Tevon Campbell, baby, looking good out there.
Hey, look,
I'll leave my hat on Campbell.
So it's a good.
I'll leave my hat on Tranquil though, right?
Campbell's been excellent in coverage. He's allowed 3 receptions, 27 yards. But even better than that, as Asante Samuel, he's allowed 1 reception for a loss of 2 yards. So we are making plays. Mike Snow asks, "What was your favourite moment of the game?" His was the field goal. For me, it was the Derwin James takeaway, because if anybody deserves any success on our team, it's Derwin James, because the injuries that he's been through. He's absolutely. I can't stop watching enough YouTube clips of Derwin James. The guy he just got an aura about him, hasn't he? Everyone seems to love him, and it brings out the best in everyone around him. And this is the point I was making earlier about this team spirit. You look at Eckler and even Larry Roundtree with that drive there late in the game, fighting for every inch, and that's what we need. Look, Chiefs are not going to lie down. The Raiders are no mugs. They'll come back looking for us at their place. We've got some really tough games coming up. And there was comments last night on social media about us, thinking we won the Super Bowl. But look, we're like the Browns. We've had a really tough time. Arguably, they've had a tougher time than us. We need to enjoy this because it's such a short season. When you compare the NFL to the likes of the NBA, hockey, baseball, English soccer, it's a short window. Bez, where do you think we can make improvements going forward?
Well, do you know what? I have an award to give out. The Bez Award is going to come out here after 4 games for my 4-game-in MVP, and that's the coaching staff for their play calling, because it's been bold. We're going for it on 4th down. Even though it didn't work, as we've mentioned, that fake punt and then the fake field goal punt, even special teams play calling is incredible. And I think Herbert knows that the coaching staff have faith in him. The defense is adjusting. Who knew NFL coaches could make adjustments in an NFL game? I didn't know, because I certainly haven't seen it before. And I just think the coaching staff, more than anything, I actually trust them to develop players, get the players in the position to succeed. And, you looked at the Raiders defense, we got a bit of a glimpse in the past of linebackers on wide receivers and stuff because of, what's his name? Gus Bradley. And you think, Jesus, I think for me, it's shown that our staff are in a completely different division to most of the names that you see around the NFL nowadays. And I have full faith in them. And there's my best trophy.
Well, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to be asking John what went on with Matt Fiedler.
Hey there, Bolt fam. It's your boy, Adadroit Airs, #Audible Chocolate. I'm here with my guy, Nomeo Greats, and we're in the Herbert Hangar to give you a special offer from our good friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL. So what are they offering you, our listeners? Well, if you sign up with them, making a deposit and betting $1 on any NFL game, probably the Chargers game, and anybody from that game scores 1 point. That's right. Either team has to score 1 point. And I'm telling you right now, if you think that anybody's going to shut out Justin Herbert and the Chargers this year, I don't think so. So you bet that $1. Guess what? You're going to win $100 in free bets for use at the DraftKings Sportsbook. That is a sweet, sweet deal. What was that, Nomeo? Nomeo Greats has just informed me it's been since 1941, since there was a 0-0 tie. So this is pretty much free money for you guys. Now, if you're like me, and unfortunately you live in California and you don't have access to their sportsbook, guess what? No problem, because we all know DraftKings has a really, really awesome daily fantasy or DFS platform to use. I use it all the time. It's a great service. So if you're a new member, they're offering a lot of sweet deals for new members with their first deposit. And with your first deposit, you're going to get free access to millions of prizes for free as a new member. So I highly recommend you check out the Daily Sportsbook or Daily Fantasy from DraftKings. So how does this work? Well, you need to download the DraftKings app right now. You need to use a promo code TPPN, throw down $1 on any NFL game. That's right, $1, and you win $100 in free bets if either team scores a single point. The promo code again, TPPN, this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting sponsor of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit, and $1 wager required, one per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back, folks. Just before we go on to Matt Phelan, we had a bit of banter last night in WhatsApp. Yes, WhatsApp did go down, so we were sending messages by carrier pigeon. And I made a post about Herbert being mustard. John's like, "What the heck is mustard?" For all the users of the States that don't know what mustard means, Steph Curry, likes of LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, they are mustard. A+ performers. Justin Herbert is mustard. Hashtag Herbert is mustard. Let's get it rolling, folks. Speaking of Herbert, 2 sacks last night, John. Matt Phelan gave up 2 sacks, 3 hits. Do we need to be worried?
Matt Phelan has been one of the more consistent linemen throughout the year so far. So everyone's allowed to have poor games. And honestly, I will say this. Well, he did make some mistakes and he had some problems out there. I think altogether, the game was not as bad as maybe some of us felt. And I also think that the left side between Filer, Slater, they kind of did the best job blocking for the run. And I think some of our biggest plays kind of went around the left side. So I think all of that is a positive. So I'm not worried about Filer. And Storm Norton was okay. He held his own.
Yeah.
He got beat a few bad. Of course, there's an announcer's jinx, right? Where they're like, "Oh, Norton hasn't gotten beat in a while," and then that exact play, boom, he gets beat real bad. So
6 pressures he allowed last night.
Yeah. So again, not great, not outstanding. But they'll figure out right tackle. Hopefully, Balaga can figure out a way to get onto the field at some point. But overall, a decent job by the offensive line. I think there were some cracks in the second half when in that dreaded third quarter. Oh God, I hate the third quarter. And I think we've seen this.
Sponsored by Dan.
Sponsored by Dan. The Dan King third quarter. It is just the worst quarter. I mean, I think the stat right now is 35-3. They've been outscored in the third quarter. I mean, that's atrocious. I mean, if they could just skip over that entire quarter, I would be thankful. So, but besides that third quarter, I think the offensive line did a good job protecting Herbert. So I'm pretty happy with it. Could always be better, but it's again light years better than what we were seeing last year. So positivity all around.
I mean, there's a lot of people raving about Rashawn Slater, Bez. I mean, he gave up 2 pressures in the last 2 weeks, once against the Chiefs and once against Las Vegas. I mean, we've got to be happy with him, aren't we? He's our franchise left tackle now.
I think he's going to be the offensive rookie of the year, hands down, because the quarterbacks are struggling so much. There's no one really elevating themselves, and let's not give him all the praise in the world, guys. He's had his errors. I think there were a few alignment mistakes sort of and adjustments there, because there were some times when the Raiders had a free run at Justin. But he does a great job of getting rid of the ball. When I was watching the other day, Lawrence, no idea when to get rid of the ball, that lad. And Wilson had a better game for the Jets, but still, they're holding on to the ball. They're panicking. They no idea. Justin knows when it's broken down and the ball's gone out of bounds, safe. And as much as I love Rivers, he gives you something different, Justin. He gives you that escapability. He knows that he can try and roll out, and if it's going to be a problem, he can get rid of it. Fantastic. But for Slater, I think he needs to just maintain. It's fantastic performance. It's so refreshing to have someone like him at left tackle, and you know what you're going to get. I was watching him on the run plays, just elevating to the second level, finding a guy and driving them into the ground, and they just almost gave up half the time. Like, fine, I'm not involved in this play. It's a special player we've got. So glad we drafted him, and long may he stay healthy and perform as he's doing at the moment.
Well, he's going to be tested on Sunday. We'll talk about the Browns game on Thursday night. But Ade Ibushi as well, John, he had another good game. Didn't allow a pressure yesterday. We seldom talk about our right guard, but he's doing the business. And we've just got to pray that these guys stay healthy, I suppose. We can maintain some momentum and give Herbert the best chance. Yeah, exactly. Give Herbert the best chance he can at winning football games. I mean, how do you see it panning out with if Bulaga becomes available again? Do you think we'll use him sparingly, John? Do you think they're just going to throw him at the deep end and plug that area at right tackle?
I think Staley does a pretty good job of being careful with bringing guys back, rest them a lot. I mean, you see a lot of guys with injury designations during the week, and then they come off them by Sunday, because I think he's a big believer in resting and making sure you're ready before you get back in the game. So my belief is that when Bulaga suits up to play, he's going to be ready to play the full game. I don't think there's going to be training wheels. I think it's going to be go. Maybe he gets a few extra breathers, and Norton or Schofield or somebody rotates in a few extra times than they may normally, just because he may not be quite in game shape and may not have the stamina. But I don't think he's going to be on any kind of like a 50-50 type player when he comes back. I think he's going to be 75% with 25%, rotation, and then that'll get less and less as he gets back into game shape. So I'm not thinking that's a problem. My problem is how long does he stay in, right? How many games do we get out of him? I don't know. If I put the over under at 9 games this season, I don't know. I might take the under at this point. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to say. He's just had a lot of soft tissue injuries, and again, his age is just not doing his body any favors. So I'm really worried about what his long-term prospects are.
Yeah, I mean, Staley is not afraid, is he, to use his roster? I mean, we saw Steven Anderson again last night. Forrest Merrill had 3 snaps. We saw him briefly, but
Fackrell was out there for a lot of snaps, making big plays.
I mean,
looked great again.
Look, he did. I
2 pressures in a sack, so that the coaches obviously trust him. And if you're on the roster, if you're on the 53-man roster, you must have sat there thinking, you know what, I'm going to get a chance.
Yeah.
And I need to take my chances, which is exactly what Chris Covington and Fackrell did last night. And that, again, that's only a good thing, because there's going to be times when we can't get the offense off the field. And we're going to see Joey Bosa, in rotation, because he's going to be gassed, especially later on in the season. It's going to be 17 games this season. It's a longer regular season than normal.
It's a lot of energy to get away from all that holding. So, I mean, Bosa's just going to be tired.
Yeah.
What's happening with Linval Joseph, guys?
He's he's been there.
Have you heard his name called once? I haven't heard him do anything whatsoever. I was trying to keep an ear out. Didn't seem to make any plays. I mean,
to be honest, I think he is there, but he's kind of an unsung hero along the line.
Yeah.
I think that defenses are running away from him, to be perfectly honest, because there's no one opposite him that's really doing anything. I think he's doing his job and trying to clog up the center of the field. But again, he's not a high pressure, high sack guy. He's not a high tackle guy. He's a hole clogger to allow everybody else, to allow your Tilleries and your Nuosus and your Tranquils to get free runs. Why is Tranquil getting a free run at the QB? Because you've got someone like Linval Joseph on the other side clogging up 2 gaps and 2 blockers, allowing him to either get one-on-one or no-on-one, to the QB. So I think he's actually an unsung hero here. So don't even think about questioning or disparaging my guy Linval. Okay, I don't even want to hear that.
I mean, Tranquil yesterday, he generated heat, and that allowed Bosa to go and create that fumble. So we've got a lot of duos out there at the minute working together, and I'll put that down to coaching as well, because last year we didn't look good as a unit. You can't have if you've got a base defense, you can't have 3 of them at one side of the field and 2 at the other, or vice versa, whatever the case may be. We just seem to be playing compact. And let's just hope that continues, because it's refreshing that all 3 phases of the game now we're making plays. Derwin James made a brilliant point yesterday in his press conference. I thought it was amazing at the podium. He said if the defense need a lift, the offense are giving it as a vice versa. Special teams are coming in and doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's like, yes. I haven't checked Football Outsiders this week to see where we rank DVOA on special teams, but it's not 32. I can tell you that right now.
I mean, I don't think, in fairness, though, it's not going to be much higher. I mean, they've basically generated very little in a return game. Again, I think that's by design. I think they've designed it to try to be as careful as possible.
Minimize those risks.
I mean, you don't put Larry Roundtree on kickoff returns expecting him to have big plays. You expect him to handle the ball and then maybe get a few extra yards here or there. You don't put KJ Hill returning punts and expect a big explosive play. You expect sure hands and him trying. I'm very underwhelmed by KJ Hill, but at the same time, beggars can't be choosers. All right. We were begging for somebody who just doesn't fumble the ball, who doesn't make really bad. Yeah. So I'll take it. I think the one area of special teams that we do have to watch out for is the protection. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys get pretty close to Tai Long already. And he had that.
Excuse me. You mean QB2 Tai Long?
QB2 Tai Long. Yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's looked better than Easton Stick so far this regular season. But anyways, yeah. So, I mean, he's been knocked down once. He almost got knocked down last night. It obviously was not, because, in the replay you saw he didn't really get touched. Very soccer style there, taking the dive. But, I mean, they're getting real close. They're playing with fire there. So they really need to work on that protection to keep that from happening. But, as long as they're not having big boneheaded penalties and they're not turning the ball over, I can't complain.
No, there's not a lot to complain about yesterday. Another win. 3-1, we had that blip against Dallas. It happens, but
I'll complain about Mike Williams. Well, my wife will. She lost her fantasy week because she was down by a lot, but she was playing Derek Carr, but she had Williams and Eckler, and I was like, you're probably pretty solid there, and Eckler's blowing the roof off, but Williams does nothing, and I'm just like, I can't. She ends up losing by like 1 or 2 points. It was pretty tough. So I was like, that stiff arm that Eckler had where he almost stiff armed the defender and almost took it another 20 yards to the end zone. If he had scored that, or if Williams hadn't been overthrown on that one deep shot, she would have won. But it is what it is. That's what fantasy is. And I always tell her, and she doesn't have the same perspective as me, I guess. But my perspective is, I don't care. I think I went 3 for 10 in fantasy leagues this weekend, and it was a bad weekend, but the Chargers won and they're in first place. So I don't care. I'm about real football. Fantasy I love, and I'll defend it to the death, but give me real wins over fantasy wins.
So true. 100%.
I was 0-3 in fantasy, and if I'm 0-3 every week and the Chargers win, I'll take that.
Damn right.
Any final points, guys, before we wrap up? Bez?
No, we're good. I'm so happy. Looking forward to this weekend when we come live from Tottenham Stadium. Falcons Jets. What are we going to do
there? Yeah. I forgot we were paying to watch the Jets playing.
Is that the Championship League? Tier 2? Tier 2 right there.
Well, to be fair, John, I'm sat in Tier 2 seats with Dan. Bez is in with the prawn sandwich brigade with the raw box. Yeah.
Bougie.
Premium.
Wow. Look at that.
Right.
Bit
of corporate hospitality.
Champagne and shrimp.
Sounds good.
Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, everyone. The
Chargers
moved to 3-1. We'll be previewing week 5 on Thursday night when we host the Browns. It's going to be a tough one. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bolt up.
Bolt up.